Hey, what's up, man? Welcome to the Foxing Around podcast. I'm your host, Raymond Fox.
And I'm your co-host, River Thomas.
Hey, brother, it's good to see you, man. How was Christmas for you, bro?
Bro, it's good, man. With despite being in the middle of a pandemic, bro, it's the best Christmas I had in years, man. I was able to be close to my family, and we just spent the whole day together, man. It was really, really good to get that quality time. And how about you?
Hey, it was good too, bro. Obviously, I spent some time with my girlfriend and her family out here. It was really quiet. It was just the three of us. We had a good turkey dinner. We got to open up a few presents. It was just like a good time, bro. And I was really happy with how quiet it was. And I wasn't fighting for no spot on the couch to eat my turkey dinner. So it was dope, bro.
Yeah, bro, show us your gift.
Hey, check it out, man. So Pascamin Creations hooked me up with a Foxing Around medallion. My mom got it made for me. Shout out Pascamin Designs out of Sweetgrass, Saskatchewan. Made me a brand medallion, bro. I'm bedazzled.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful, bro.
Yeah, bro. What'd you get for Christmas, bro? You cop a couple gifts?
Yeah, bro. I got this crazy Sidney Crosby picture framed. I got a remote car starter. That's something that my parents need, man. The thing I noticed is like the older we get the essentials as gifts. You know what I mean? Like the warm socks, you get the car starters, you get the new bedding, all that stuff.
Yeah, the mushroom gifts. I got the slippers too, bro. You know those cheap slippers? I got a pair of those. They were dope. But without further ado, man, you ain't here to hear us, man. We are so excited about these next two guests, man. They're content creators. They're trailblazers in their own communities. They're doing a lot of big work in fashion and youth with the youth, man. Like I'm just proud to know these guys and to build a relationship with them. So without further ado, man, let's introduce Kai and Scott, man.
Boom.
Hey. What's good, boys? How you doing?
Good.
Hey, how's it going? Happy holidays.
Yeah. Wait, we're gonna cut each other a lot off during this podcast, so don't feel too bad about it if we talk over each other. But hey, thank you guys for joining us. I want to know a little bit about what you guys are up to right now, man. Like, you guys at home for Christmas? You staying bundled down during COVID? What you guys up to?
Well, I'm back at home for my for the holidays. I was living in Toronto with Scott, and I was able to get some vacation time off work. So I'm being very careful, and I decided to make the best of it and come back and visit my community and try to see a couple of my good friends and family while I'm here. So I'm having a good time.
Hey, dope. What you up to, Scott?
It's the same for me. I literally just got out of fucking isolation on Christmas Day. I'm up here in my home reserve of Moose Creek First Nation, Moose Factory, Ontario. I've been here for about a little over 2 weeks now. I just got out of isolation on Christmas Day. Just been hanging out, chilling with family, getting reconnected with the land, and just enjoying the holidays, really.
Hey, that's beautiful. That's beautiful, boys. I'm glad to hear you guys both got to make it home to your own communities, man. As somebody that this first time not at home for Christmas, I know how it feels to not be able to go back. So that's good that you did. I want to know a little bit about you guys, man. Give us a little bit about who you guys are, where you guys grew up. Take us all the way back. I know you guys are still some young uncles, but we want to know, where did you guys grow up? How'd you grow up?
First of all, I'm an auntie. Just kidding.
I go since he's the elder here.
Oh.
And I still look the youngest out of all four of us. Wow. Crazy how that happens.
Back.
Okay, so first of all, Aboashtet, Kyron Biro Migipchet. My name is Kyron. I am from the Alexis Nakota Sioux Nation here in Treaty 6 territory. I'm originally from Miskouche Oskahikan in Edmonton. I'm currently making my home in District 1 Spoon territory in Toronto. And a little bit about me. I was born in Edmonton. I grew up here majority of my life. I did a little bit of traveling when I was an adult, and but for the majority of my life, I've been here in Edmonton. I grew up kind of like on 3 different reserves. I grew up in Paul Band mostly. I spent a lot of time in Enoch. I spent actually most summers in Enoch with my family out there, and then a lot of time obviously in Alexis with my family there. So let's see, I have quite a big extended family, all in Treaty 6, and even some family down in Morley from that reserve. My grandma's from there, and yeah, I'm Stoney Nakota. I have a bit of Cree in my family, but I don't talk about that. Just kidding. But my Cree's pretty good. It's better than my Stoney, unfortunately. I'm still learning my Stoney language, but that's why I feel like it's important for me to introduce myself in Stoney, because I do it so much in Cree. I'm trying to get used to speaking both languages. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Hey,
Love that. Oh, and hey guys, Wajay Misway, Scott Wabno in Gasu. My name is Scott Wabno. I'm a Two-Spirit Cree that was born and raised here in Moose Cree First Nation territory, known as Moose Factory, Ontario. It's the tip of James Bay. I'd like to say it's the tip of the iceberg there. However, my family roots come from the Iwishi in northern Quebec, specifically the Cree Nation of Waskaganish. It was kind of like a typical Cree love story, I guess you could say. My mom's side of the family came from the East Coast, and my dad's side of the family came from the West Coast of the Bay, and they met in the middle in Moose Factory. Conceived this beautiful little Cree baby, as you can see. Yeah, I've just been here. I grew up here. I kind of bounced around northern Ontario. Actually, I lived in Sudbury and JKSK, and then I lived in North Bay as well for a bit of my grade 8 years, my high school years. I moved around to Timmins as well, moved around to Ottawa. I've just kind of been everywhere, I guess you could say, around Ontario. But my family roots come from the Cree Nation of Waskaganish and Attawapiskat First Nation as well too. But right now I currently reside in the Dish with One Spoon Treaty Territory, known as Toronto, where I work as a freelance stylist and also a designer for my own brand. And yeah, that's kind of basically me now.
hey, that's dope, man. It's cool to kind of get both of those backstories and just figure out where you come from. I want to know a little bit about, we kind of had explored this in our pre-conversation, but, obviously both of you being Two-Spirit, I want you guys to give a little bit of education on what Two-Spirit is and where it comes from, your early roots with being Two-Spirit, or being, culturally, your cultural identity with as it pertains to kind of being Two-Spirit.
All right, so I'm gonna try to make this as quick as possible because I get this question 5 times a day on all of my social media, and I get it texted to me, and I do this for work, so I answer this question quite a bit. And so I think the best way that I know how to answer this question now is to just say that my experience with Two-Spirit is obviously my own. It's quite unique to myself. And if you ask any Two-Spirit person, they're going to give their own rendition, their own lived experience of what Two-Spirit means to them. And so I'll start off by saying that Two-Spirit is quite a colonial contemporary term that was only coined in the last 20 years. And so it's quite a new term to describe something that predates time in itself, because time is colonial, as we know, but also the language that we're using now is language that is foreign to us, even though it's our first language, a lot of us. So the whole Two-Spirit term we use now is kind of it's a catch-all, and unfortunately it's one that doesn't honor a lot of the unique identities that exist under Two-Spirit, because Two-Spirit is now an umbrella term. So when I say that I'm Two-Spirit, I'm acknowledging I'm acknowledging both the male and the female. I'm not even going to say male and female, because that implies that there's a gender binary. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that there's masculine and feminine. And those are just 2 energies that are inside of me. And it was something that I struggled with quite a bit when I was young. And now that I'm older and I'm coming more into who I am as a person, I feel so blessed to be able to acknowledge and utilize and respect both of those energies within myself. So Two-Spirit to me is a cultural sacred identity. It's a traditional identity, a spiritual identity the one that exists in not every one that exists in most indigenous communities, but is so unique and so special to that community. And so in my language we say winkte. I'm somebody who is neither who is kind of neither male nor female, yet both at the same time, if that makes any sense. Like Two-Spirit people traditionally are these people who are able to kind of understand both worlds and kind of walk between that awesome line of being quite masculine and quite feminine. And because of that, because of having those two spirits, they were considered to be closer to the creator. They had a lot more spiritual power. And remember, these are my teachings, so it may be different for other people, but because they had that spiritual power, they were often regaled as being leaders in their community, and they took up natural roles like helpers, healers, counselors, medicine people, war party leaders, people that were able to really advocate for the community and help the community and take care of their community. So in contemporary terms, and in today's world, because we're not living in those times anymore, I identify myself as a Two-Spirit person to let people know that I'm doing the work in my community that only I'm able to do as a special Two-Spirit person within my community. And I take that really seriously. And so I don't ever tell people, oh, I'm a gay Native person. I tell people I'm a Two-Spirit person. I'm Winkta in my community, and I have a responsibility to my people in my community to uphold those traditions that have been, unfortunately, a lot of them have been lost. And so I'm now trying really hard to reclaim that identity, and I feel proud when I say that I'm Two-Spirit, and I really want people to know that it's something that has existed and predated a lot of the ideas that we have about being gay and what gender is and all these different socially constructed colonial things. So I guess I hope that answers your question. I'm Two-Spirit, and that's my little quick definition of it.
For sure. Scott, can you kind of explain a little bit about your own personal journey with figuring out when you came to be Two-Spirit and how it worked, and just basically everything that Kai said, but just in your own personal words?
Yeah. So Kai kind of basically got everything in a nutshell. Not everything, but like his teachings too are similar to the teachings that I was taught becoming a Two-Spirit person as well too. But likewise, like with me though, I actually just figured out about my Two-Spirit identity within the past maybe 2 years was when I started reconnecting with learning about what it meant to be Two-Spirit. But when you say like, when did I find out? I feel like I've always known that I've kind of been Two-Spirit, growing up as a child. I always sense that there was something different to me, different with me. I grew up along with ceremony as well too. And I don't know, like the term Two-Spirit to me is like more of an identity, like Kai has said, rather than a sexual orientation that most people mistake it as being. It's acknowledging that you're carrying more than one spirit within yourself. You're carrying both a feminine and a masculine spirit in simpler terms. And like I said, I won't get into like the ceremonial teachings that I was taught, and I can't, like me and Kai can't speak on behalf of all Two-Spirit identity, Two-Spirit people. And I feel like that's something so beautiful with Two-Spirit identities, is because we're all so unique and we all have our own power, we have our own gifts, and we have the power to kind of label our own identity and be our own people, because we are our own people with our own needs and our own gifts and our own views, our own identity. But yeah, Two-Spirit is more of an umbrella term, and that's something that I'm still learning about myself on a daily. I've known since I was a child, because I've never felt like I fit in. Growing up, I feel like I've always struggled with finding where I belonged amongst the whole like LGBTQ spectrum. Because I remember I like identified as bisexual at first, because like I wasn't sure of my own identity. So I identified as bisexual and then gay, and because I wasn't around like the ceremonial teachings. And then I started identifying as pansexual, and then as soon as I started like surrounding myself with more community and getting involved with my culture and getting reconnected like that, that's when I heard the term Two-Spirit. And it kind of like hit me like a train. And that's when I was like, yo, like everything in my whole life that like from the childhood to where I am now, like all this shit just makes sense now. And this is who I am. I'm a two-spirit person. And then ever since that, I've started just like learning more about two-spirit identities, specifically within the Cree culture, because I am a Cree person as well too. And I'm like Karen said, like two-spirit is more of an umbrella term because, you know, all of our First Nations, all of our tribes, we all have our own language and we all have our own term to kind of, you know, label that identity within our communities. So yeah, it was kind of, like I said, like I've just been learning more about being two-spirit within the past like 2 years. And like Kai said, I'm coming into myself as a two-spirit person, and it's just been a beautiful journey, I guess you could say.
No, for sure, for sure. I think that's very special, and I'm already kind of learning and getting to understand it a little bit more. I want to kind of go back again a little bit, just because of both of you guys kind of talked about in your childhood. You know, Scott especially said, you know, you kind of always knew that there was something a little bit different about you. Growing up, what was that like, knowing that, you know, there was something different about you? Did you face a lot of, you know, like ridicule, homophobia, and things like that? And were there, you know, good moments as well too, where people, you know, like important people in the communities maybe were, you know, uplifting or messages of support and encouragement, and kind of brought you guys into your own spaces as people? How did that kind of come about?
Who wants to go first?
I can speak to that. I actually think that I was quite blessed at a really young age to have a mother who was very, very, my mother celebrated me. My mother, Ina is what I would call her. She really did a good job in giving birth to me and then being proud of the person that she created. And I really owe a lot of my feminine strength. A lot of my identity comes from my mother. When I was quite young, I remember being like almost a baby and being able to just look up at her and think like, wow, she is so beautiful. And she was so feminine. My mom was like really, really, for lack of a better word, like girly. She liked to wear heels. She had beautiful long hair past her waist. She wore dresses and they just would like flow when she walked. And I just remember thinking she was like a goddess, because she was. And she was also very, very masculine at the same time too. She had a lot of she was brave, she was strong, she was outspoken. And growing up, I was very, very, very feminine. And that was something that I didn't have to think about it, because it sort of was just there. It was just who I am. It was as easy as breathing, because it was just who I was. And I grew up wanting to be like my mom so much, because I grew up without a father. I didn't have a dad. He left before I was born. So all I really had was my mom and my two brothers. And looking up to my mom all the time and seeing the way that she was, I resonated with that feminine strength that she had. And I remember I growing up, I used to put her hair over my hair when we would lay together and watch shows. I would pretend that her hair was mine, and I would like comb it, and she'd let me braid her hair. I would sit there like doing her makeup, and I remember putting on her little pashminas, her scarves, and kind of just like, I just saw her do it, and it felt good and it felt nice, and it was just what I wanted to be. And my mom, instead of saying, "Oh, don't do that, men aren't supposed to be like that, men aren't supposed to do that," she never said any of that to me. In fact, she would say the opposite. She would say, "Wow, that scarf is so beautiful on you." She used to call me her superstar, because I used to put her shoes on. I was a dancer since I was quite young, and so I would always be dancing and performing for her. And she'd put on music for me, and I would dance around in her outfits. And it was really a special moment between my mom and I. And not once did I ever feel like I shouldn't be doing this, because she was encouraging me to be myself. And I was told at a very young age, I think I want to say 5. I remember my aunt coming to visit us, and I was doing one of these performances for my mom. And my brothers would pick on me sometimes, and the other kids would pick on me too. And they would say like, "Oh, he's a girl, or he's trying to be a girl," or they would say, "He doesn't want to play with us. He'd rather play with girls." And this and this and this, as if that was a bad thing. Like, but anyway, my auntie came in and she would say, you know, like, you guys, like, quit picking on him. Like, don't pick on him. He's two spirit, she would say. He's two spirit. He doesn't know it now, but he's two spirit. She used to always say that word over and over and over again. And I remember thinking, two spirit, what the hell, you know? And I didn't like that term because I didn't know. I was a kid. I didn't know what that meant. And I thought, I don't want to be two spirit. That sounds different. I don't want to be different. You know what I mean? And she said, you don't understand it now. You'll understand it later. And so I kind of just let that sit in the back of my head. Didn't really think too much of it. Unfortunately, my mom passed away when I was 7. And after losing my mom, I lost a big part of my strength of being myself. And so growing up after that, I remember trying to hide. I remember being ashamed. I remember being scared of like being feminine. That feminine strength that was so deep within me, all of a sudden was a great source of hurt because it reminded me of my mom. And it wasn't until I was 17, I think, and I started to change that. I started to be interested in being myself and not hiding anymore. So I went through a lot of like bullying and a lot of like hiding, putting a lot of energy into like changing the way that I am. And I think that's a story for a lot of queer people, is like expending so much energy when I should just be developing normally, but I was spending so much of my energy and my heart trying to change who I was just so that I could be kind of normal, quote unquote normal, just to get through the days. And so while a lot of people were doing this healthy development, I was kind of stuck in survival mode. And that's where a lot of my resources went, unfortunately. But when I was 17, I remember crying because I realized that I liked the same sex. So I was a gay person. And I didn't really come out. I didn't have to. My family was kind of like, well, you're two spirit. And I was like, okay, here's this word again. Like, what is that? You know what I mean? And they said that feminine spirit that you have within you, that second spirit, that's your mom's spirit. Where do you think that spirit went? It didn't just disappear when she passed away. That spirit's within you now. That's that second spirit that is keeping you strong. That second spirit that is pushing you to be who you are. And just as much as I think masculine energy has been really a big part of my life and has been a big part of who I am as a person and makes me up and keeps me strong, I think that people misunderstand femininity and they mistake it for being weak. But in my experience, all of the most powerful and strong and wise people have always been women. And in my community, women have always been the ones who are doing these things. And so it didn't make sense to me that I could be weak, or I could be like somebody who was undesirable, or I could be like it was a bad thing for me to be feminine. And so it really was like really perspective shifting and like life changing, to be honest, to be told when I came out that you are two spirit and this is what that means. And that's the start of my two spirit journey. I really was like, oh my gosh, like, you mean it's not like I'm this way for a reason. And creator didn't really make a mistake when creator had me. I'm my existence and my purpose and all of these things about myself that I was so, like I said, like ashamed of and trying to hide. These weren't things that were wrong. I think that I am a product of my ancestors, and I'm now here because of them, and that my mom, this matriarch in my eyes, is now that spirit is now with me, and it really is what keeps me strong. And I think when in our language we say "Owagi Shakabi," which means that there is strength in spirit, and I fully believe that. I think the more that I learn how to like protect my spirit, the stronger that I am. And all of a sudden, all of these like hate comments that I get and all of this bullying that I'm receiving, it's like literally doesn't even faze me anymore. It doesn't affect me anymore, because I know that I'm so grounded and rooted in my ceremonial and cultural identity. And now it's a part of I am. It's a part of who I am intrinsically, and that's like something that I'm so proud of it, and I'm so happy to say that I carry that spirit with me, and it really does keep me strong on the days that I feel really really weak. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, man, that's huge. That's very important and very thoughtful of you to share. Thank you so much. Scott, I want to know a little bit about you, man. Obviously, you told me, you were always ready to jingle dress dance as a young kid, and you might have the moves. I want to know like a little bit about your journey to where you kind of got to.
Yeah. So like Kai, my kind of journey was very similar to Kai, whereas a sense I was raised by my mom. I came from separated parents. My parents were separated way before I was born. So I was really lucky to have a mother who kind of, took care of me and loved me and kind of celebrated for who I was. And, growing up, I always sensed that there's something different. I think maybe about 2-3 years old, my mom was like, because we come from a very Christian family. We come from a very religious family. Like a lot of my family is, they go to church and whatnot, and they've all been in residential school. And so me and my mom kind of had to deal with that a lot, growing up within Moose Factory and, growing up within a community that was, still dealing with the effects of residential schools and genocide and colonialism and whatnot. So me and my mom decided to leave, and my mom decided to move to Sudbury. And that's where my mom kind of reconnected with her Indigenous identity. And that's when she learned about, ceremonies. And that's when she introduced me to ceremonies as well, too. She brought me to my first powwow, actually, which was in Sudbury, Ontario. And it was in Lakehead University. She said I was like 3 years old, dancing around with a little feather, a turkey feather that I found. And she said I got there, and I was just full of joy, and I just wanted to dance around. I was like in a circle just dancing. And then from there, that's when I met my aunt and uncle. Actually, their names are Emily Ferries and Bill Constant. They're very well respected elders within my communities up here, and they kind of met my mom, and they introduced themselves to my mom, and they seen how well I wanted to dance, and they gifted me my first traditional regalia. And they actually, I believe they told my mom that I must have been two-spirit. I sensed that there was a little conversation there because they did approach my mom and told them that I was, a special being to this earth, and they gifted me a regalia. So I was very raised, within the powwow circle, and I was raised within ceremony. I was always going to powwow trails every summer. Like I literally always used to go to Edmonton all the time too. I'm pretty sure I went to Enoch powwow a couple times as a child. Was always out there in the Badlands. We'd go to like North and South Dakota and like travel through there. And yeah, and like even just being at powwows, I remember like dancing traditional all the time. And I remember like I would always be friends with like the girls, the tiny tots, and they would always be in their jingle dress dances and their fancy shawls. And during intertribals, when I would dance with all my friends, I remember like I would always like want to dance jingle, and I'd always have like my hands on my hips and like trying to dance jingle dress. And I remember just being so fascinated by jingle dress dancers and fancy dancers, and I was just so like amazed by the femininity within, Indigenous culture and how it was celebrated, because, within Indigenous culture, women are powerful beings. They're matriarchs. They're people we look up to. They provide us life. And the fact that I was like, raised by such a powerful woman who kind of celebrated who I was, and, she didn't judge me, and she didn't, she let me celebrate and kind of go through my own journey. But like I said, we were raised, and after Sudbury, we moved back to Moose Factory, coming back to a place that, like I said, was still dealing with all the effects of colonization. And then that's like, I had long hair when I came back, because I had long hair way up to my ass. And I remember like not meeting anybody. And I remember I was the only like guy in the reserve who had long hair, and the only boy. And that came bullying, and like a lot of people were judging me, like they thought I wanted to be a girl, like a lot of like my aunts and uncles, but I even asked like my mom, like, why are you letting him grow his hair like so long? Like he's a girl, like why are you trying to like let him be a girl? Like saying stuff like that. So like growing up with that within, I was always bullied for that. So I kind of hid myself in a sense, like I knew I was different, and I knew like I was not like a typical straight kind of guy, like all my friends were girls. I was always, playing with Barbies and everything. And I remember like also just always being surrounded by feminine girls and like just being surrounded by femininity and being bullied for that. And it got to the point where, you know, like I actually like cut my hair and like, you know, I shaved my head. And that wasn't also one of the other points was that because I also got nits, but we're not going to talk about that. You know, the res problem got nits and it was so bad. Like my stepmom at the time was like, hey, no, we're not even going to try and save your hair. Like this is, I'm sorry, but this has got to go. Any res kid will understand. So
We got to normalize head lice.
like I remember being happy too, like thinking, like my hair is finally going off, like I won't be teased anymore, I'll finally look like a boy. And that's when I moved to like North Bay. I moved there for grade 8, and that's when I lost my, you know, dealing with all the bullying, I kind of lost my identity. And like going to North Bay and a place that was like a city, like there was no, it was different than what I was raised in Moose Factory. So it was a struggle, and that's when I actually stopped powwow dancing when I was in grade 8. So I must have been like around 13 years old. And I remember like being so like, I felt so ashamed, you know, like I felt so sad to be Indigenous at one point in my life because of how we were perceived within media and how, you know, we were bullying, how we were always being like discriminated against. And I just remember feeling so sad and like feeling like I didn't want to be Indigenous enough. So I lost my love for powwow dancing and hoop dancing, and I stopped. And I stopped for like a really long time, and I kind of, you know, lost my way, I guess you could say. Like I thought, like I said, I thought I was a gay person. I thought I like would fit into this LGBTQ spectrum. And I remember like when I came out too, like the only, like luckily I come from like a very loving and accepting family as well too. And like, I feel like everyone kind of knew before I even knew. So when I came out, like I just came out to my mom, and like I didn't even bother like telling like the rest of my family that I was like gay. Like I just told my mom, and my mom accepted me. She loved me, and then I just celebrated my life after that. Like I was living as a gay man up until maybe about 2 years ago. I was scrolling on Facebook one day actually, and then I came across this article that said two-spirit beings and what they represent and whatnot. I remember like feeling so intrigued to like check out this article, and I was like what the hell is a two-spirit identity? And so I checked it out, and I remember like reading about it and like seeing like all the connections of Indigenous culture, and I was like, yo, I want to learn more about this. Like I feel like there's like something here that's like, you know, why I've been feeling all this way like throughout my childhood and everything. Like I've always felt like there was this something in me. So I started learning more about being two-spirit through various organizations, like the Two-Spirit of the First Nations, Two-Spirited People of the First Nations, who Kyron actually works for, and the Two Spirits in Motion Foundation as well, the Cree Women of the Iwishji Association as well too. They've also been putting up two-spirit flyers. So I started learning more about that and kind of surrounding myself with individuals who kind of identified as two-spirited, such as Kyron and all of our other friends. So it's kind of been a journey for me. Like I kind of tapped into myself as a two-spirit individual, I would say, within the past year. And I'm still learning about my identity. But like Kyron said, we've been two spirits since we've even gotten to this earth, you know, like this is who we are, and it's not me coming out as a two-spirit person, it's me tapping into my two-spirit identity, you know. So that's kind of like me in a nutshell. Two-spirit identity.
Hey, yeah, no, for sure. And I want to bring up the effects of colonialism and residential schools in terms of how they look at our two-spirit brothers and sisters, and even matriarchy. That's one thing that I really want to emphasize, is that like Cree people historically, that we are a matriarch society, and from my understanding, a lot of Indigenous nations are a matriarch society. And I feel like with colonialism, we strayed so far away from that. And in all honesty, I think like with how much patriarchy there is in the world, I feel like that's why everything's in shambles right now, because we don't have enough femininity even being expressed from men. And like there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
No fact. Like there's such a toxic, like it brings up like that whole toxic masculinity within indigenous communities as well too. And like, yeah, the effects of colonialism and like the way that our own indigenous people viewed, people like myself and people like Kyron. I remember growing up and like being like in my family's household, hearing like people like me were going to a place called hell, or like, we were not well, we were like sick in the head, like we weren't right type of people. And like I remember, like that's what I grew up hearing a lot, and like hearing that I should be ashamed of who I was, that I wasn't supposed to be who I am. Whereas, I started learning more about my Cree culture and about my indigeneity and being Two-Spirit, and learning that it was the complete opposite, where, people like myself were actually celebrated and we were honored and we were respected, not, degraded and humiliated and bullied all the time. So I don't know, it was really nice to learn in that sense, and kind of get that point of view and see both sides. But like I said, like I was raised in a Christian household, and like, hearing that people like me were bad, but I was still able to kind of, fight through that and build my own sense of identity, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Colonization is a structure. It wasn't an event that just happened. And the residential school system in particular, a huge tool of colonization, was one that was quite it knew what it knew what its purpose was, and it was good at doing what it did, and that's why it did the amount of damage that it's done. And because of the church, the Catholic Church, and those ideologies that came with the church, a lot of our Two-Spirit people, like our communities, a lot of them are oral storytellers, and oral tradition is what gets passed on a lot through ceremony and things like that. And because of not only just the regular genocide that was happening, there was a large portion of cultural genocide happening at the same time. And because of that, any the languages were not being allowed to be spoken. If you spoke the language, you were punished or killed, or if you practiced your culture, you were punished or killed. And for Two-Spirit people, I was told there was a large amount of Two-Spirit people who had to go into hiding in order to preserve these teachings and pass them down. Because if they, like the colonizers and the church and the people who ran the residential schools, they didn't understand these people, these Two-Spirit beings. They just weren't able to comprehend what was going on, and it went against their beliefs, because as we know, in the colonized kind of Western world, it's man shall not lay with another man kind of deal. So a lot of our Two-Spirit people had to go into hiding. A lot of them were just killed, and a lot of them were just punished for being
and I feel like a lot of still are in hiding too, because of how some indigenous communities still are. Like, where I'm from, Cree Nation of Waskaganish, it's very religious there as well too, and we actually had to fight to even have a powwow there because of how how the effects of colonialism and residential schools just kind of impacted them and their views and their minds, and it's wild.
There's a lot of there's a lot of indigenous people who are older than me who have come to me and have tried to and have been just straight up homophobic to me, just like straight up hateful to me. And these are traditional people who are in ceremony, and people are often like, well, how does that happen? How can you be like a really traditional, quote unquote traditional indigenous person, but you're so homophobic and hateful? And it's like, well, why do you think that happens? Look at our history. Look what happened with the residential school systems. Like it served its purpose. It did what it was supposed to do. And unfortunately, because of that, a lot of our people have these backwards ways of thinking. These ways of thinking that are not natural to us as indigenous people. Homophobia has no place in indigenous culture. Absolutely not. Hate and that level of hate and that level of divisiveness and of discrimination has no place in our culture. And yet we have older generations now perpetuating that and being a part of the problem. And absolutely, I attribute that to colonization. And I think that those people have, I don't blame them for their thinking, because I know that it wasn't their fault.
Mhm.
They have a responsibility, sure, now to do that healing and to protect their young people. But I'm not surprised that a lot of them think that way. And so I think that it's the young people's it's not the young people's responsibility to be doing this, but I think a lot of young people now are taking it upon themselves to be that next level of the next wave of cultural revitalization and resurgence, and of bringing the community together. And Indigenous people, we always say that we learn from our children. Our children are our teachers, and I absolutely believe that. Look at all the young people that we're learning from. They're going to be the ones who do the healing, and Two-Spirit people have always fundamentally been at the forefront of that healing, and so that's why we will continue to do that work.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a very important piece, how we have to talk about these are learned behaviors. This isn't something that's ingrained on us. This is learned hatred, and residential schools and colonialization is a good example for that. You look at the older generation compared to a lot of people now, they're a lot more forgiving. And that's another thing I want to bring up, is we have to bring up how it's Western society. It's these white males who are deeming what is masculine and what is feminine. And like, that's literally all it is. Now, like, for example, now if a guy wears makeup, it's feminine. If a guy wears heels, it's feminine. If a guy wears a wig, it's feminine. But you go back a couple hundred years ago, like, all those motherfuckers were wearing heels. They were wearing heels. They were putting on makeup. They were putting on wigs. You know what I mean? Like, a white guy invented heels. Mm-hmm. And suddenly now the times changed. The times shifted, that they want to say that that's feminine and that's gay and that's wrong. Like, that's a majority of what the problem is this settler society that is so foreign to us.
No, that's facts. And we actually learned that because, like, I go to school for fashion, and we learned something like that. And we noticed, like, how toxic the kind of fashion industry is right now, with the whole, like, menswear, women's wear, and, like, how it's frowned upon on how, like, men wear heels and, leggings and stuff like that. Whereas, Indigenous people, with our fashion, it was never like that. We never had a whole, gender stereotype when it came to our clothing. Like, we didn't have a whole, this is men's clothing, this is women's clothing, and we just wore what we wanted to wear.
Yeah, exactly. And like, same, like, look at the long hair. Like, I have my long hair. I have both these ears pierced. I actually have some, like, these are beaded white earrings that my sister gifted me, and like, to some they may be like feminine, but like, whatever, fashion has no gender. Fashion is fluid, right?
Facts. That's facts.
Yeah, Scott, tell us a little bit more about fashion, man, because not only are you a fashion student, bro, but you're a fashion designer as well too, and you're putting out some like dope Indigenous pieces that are kind of like decolonizing the fashion industry in your own community. So I want to know a little bit more about, like, how does it work? Like, what's the process of making these pieces, and where do you take it?
And the Trojan collection.
And the Trojan collection.
The Trojan collection. Can't forget about that. I don't know. Well, like, with me, fashion is always kind of like I said, like, with Indigenous people, fashion is kind of ingrained within our culture, when it comes to our traditional regalias, when it comes to, ceremony, our beadwork, everything. Fashion has just always been our way of life, our way of expressing who we are. And I don't know, just like when I kind of compared it to between like mainstream fashion and traditional Indigenous fashion, I've always just had a passion, just for fashion as a whole, and I feel like I've always appreciated the artwork that came with it, because I growing up within powwow and seeing the intricate beadwork and the intricate details that go into all of this stuff. I've always had a passion and admiration and a soft spot for garments and the way that they're made. And so when it comes to that, and when I started going to school and started to learn about like women's wear and men's wear, and how that's like a whole thing and a whole topic, and these gender stereotypes and whatnot. That's something that was very kind of foreign and new to me, learning about it. So when I was learning about it in school, I was like, wait, no, like I could see how colonized the Western, the fashion industry is, and how, the fashion industry could learn from the indigenous culture and our way of life, and how the way we view our clothes too, because there's this, a lot of people view it as a commodity. They view it as something you buy and replace. And, with indigenous people, we always take care of our garments. We pray for them, we feast for them and everything. So it's just kind of been important for me to kind of be that indigenous representation within mainstream fashion, and kind of be that voice, for not only for indigenous peoples, but for the environment as well too, because fashion is the second most polluting industry with it, aside from oil. And, I feel like that has to do with, the effects of colonization and all that stuff. And, there's such this, hunger for money and greed, and that's what's kind of destroying our planet. So I'm trying to like use my work within fashion to do that. So I've been working as a stylist for the past year now. And so far my works has been in Fashion Magazine Canada, Complex, Cityline, Marilyn Dennis Show, CTV Social. I kind of wanted to come to school because I wanted to learn more about the business aspect of it. As indigenous people, unfortunately, we have to like go to school in these Western colonizations and kind of, learn their game, learn their laws, and learn their rules within their fields, within their industry. So that's what I wanted to go to school for, and kind of, break that, and kind of, be that indigenous representation. So fashion can kind of steer towards a more sustainable way of living, something indigenous people have been practicing for generations now.
Hey, preach on it, man. I'm so excited to hear you talking about that. It's so dope, man. Like I personally haven't really, like explored fashion too much. But just seeing your pieces and the work that you're doing, and how passionate you are about it, man, it's beautiful to see. I want to know a little bit about your work, man. Like I know you do a lot of work within Toronto and some different communities, and you're very proud of where you work. And so I want you to kind of explain to us a little bit about what you do, how you do it, man, and your passion for it.
Sure, no problem. I have many roles. I think within my like professional work, the biggest role that I take on, and I introduce myself as, is a youth advocate. I would really take that identity on. I think that's a good word that describes the kind of stuff that I do. Ever since I was young, like I was always in care. I was in care since I was 6 months old. I've been in and out of the foster system, and I've been quite heavily involved with child and family services. And so a big part of my life and a big part of my work that I do is advocating for youth who are in care. And a lot of, Indigenous youth are overrepresented in care by disgustingly gross amounts. Like in my province alone, in Alberta, it's somewhere like 75% to 70 or even 80% of all kids in care are Indigenous. That's almost all of them. That is really like, something's going on there, right? Like that's not a coincidence. So coming out of care, and I've been living on my own since I was 17. I was in and out of youth emergency shelters and living in homeless shelters, and I have a good idea of what it's like to be on one side of the fence. And I grew up and I educated myself, and I continued to do that work, and so now I'm on the other side of the fence in a sense. And so I get this unique perspective and this unique opportunity to advocate, to speak up for my experiences in care, to speak up on all of the adversity and the barriers that Indigenous youth have to go through in order to quote unquote succeed, and all of their barriers to success. And so I started doing a lot of panels for CFS, and I started doing a lot of advisory work for many different organizations. Like I was on the Wisdom Council for Alberta Health Services. I was a part of Child and Family Services, youth. I was the youth representative for the Alberta Suicide Prevention Task Team for the government of Alberta. I did a lot of work with the Office of the Child and Youth Advocate. So I did all of these different types of advisory, education type roles. And because of that, I built up this skill to do public speaking and to advocate for myself and to talk about all of the different barriers that young people are experiencing. And that just naturally leaded me to where I am now, where I turned, I think I was 25-ish, or maybe no, I would have been 23 or 24. I started getting involved with the Two-Spirit community and learning more from my knowledge keepers and from my community. And a couple of really big advocates of mine have been, or not advocates, role models of mine have been like my good friend James McCocus, who I think was earlier here in the chat. Really awesome person who's really helped me in my journey ever since I was 16 years old, looking up to posters of him in my school. And he's a Two-Spirit doctor here in my area, and seeing people like that really, and being a part of the community with them and doing that work really helped me to come into my role as a youth advocate. And I got a position with the Edmonton Two-Spirit Society here in Edmonton, a nonprofit organization serving the greater Edmonton area, doing a lot of youth programming. So offering ceremonial services to young people, making sure that they can be connected with traditional and ceremonial help, doing a lot of safe sex work, making sure that young people who are Two-Spirit and who are indigiqueer have access to the information that nobody seems to be giving them, making sure that they can keep themselves safe, and doing a lot of teachings, doing a lot of outreach work, mental health work. And I worked with the Edmonton Two-Spirit Society for 3 years as the director of education and outreach. And so a big part of my job was going out to organizations, big organizations like federal government and different universities, and even companies like Epcor Gas, like all of these different companies who are interested in learning about what it is to be Two-Spirit and how they can help and all this kind of stuff. So a big part of my job was just going out to these places and having workshops and being like, all right, this is what Two-Spirit is. This is how you can help, like doing education and outreach, basically trying to form connections and form networking so that our community gets the support that it needs. And that naturally led me, once I left Edmonton and I moved to Toronto, I really was looking for a place to kind of fall into in terms of my professional work, and a place kind of fell into me. Like I got offered a job working for Two-Spirited People of the First Nations, which is an organization in the GTA that literally does a lot of the same work that the Edmonton Two-Spirit Society had done. And I'm really blessed because I'm a youth program developer for Two-Spirit People, and that's like a perfect position for me because it's all that I like to do, all kind of combined into one. It's a lot of content creation, it's a lot of fun stuff, but it's also a lot of really important stuff. It's a lot of life promotion and suicide prevention. It's a lot of traditional stuff, and I get to see the effects of the work that I do firsthand. I get to see the young people thriving. Because our Two-Spirit community is quite small. A lot of people think that it's this huge thing, but when we say like Two-Spirit community, like it's a very kind of, it's a quaint group of like very vulnerable people who are also very unique, and you can kind of it's obviously growing, and there's a lot of people who are a part of it who haven't really come into it yet, but I get to see the work that I do because I'm friends with these people, a lot of them. And so when we create really cool programming and these young people come and join, I can see the effects. I can see the positive effects that the work that I do has on them. And it's really, really affirming to me, and it's really beautiful. And so right now I am doing a lot of just youth programming, but I'm also exploring a lot of my passions, which is writing. I think is my biggest passion. And a lot of that comes through in the different content that I make. I do a lot of writing and I do a lot of script writing, but one day, very close in the future, I will hopefully be able to start creating bigger projects with a lot more money behind them and a lot more high production value for Two-Spirit People and content like that people like Two-Spirit people don't have access to, and there's no representation in those lines. Just like Scott is doing his fashion thing and trying to create genderless fashion for Two-Spirit people, I really want to create things like TV shows, short films, series, documentaries, things like that, and write stuff, write amazing characters who are like me and who are like Scott and who are like, you know, my friend James and all of the different people that I met in my community. I really want to do that kind of stuff. So that's where I am professionally right now, but the future is my oyster.
Cool. Let me ask you a question, because obviously, you know, your work, it sounds very rewarding and something that you take a lot of pride in. But I want to know, you know, is it tough kind of going into some of these settings and maybe they're not understanding you, or they're not open to hearing you, or it's just kind of like, you know, a good move at the time for them, but they don't follow through. Does it ever get frustrating, or are there things that you wish you could change about certain people's ideas when it comes to the work that you do?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, are you kidding? It's not only am I an Indigenous person, I'm also gay AF, and so that really like it freaks people out a lot of the times. And you have to remember, like, the work that I'm doing and the different circles I'm a part of professionally, they're not made for people like me. They're not made for Indigenous youth. When people do this type of work, they invite Indigenous youth to come into their circles. They invite Indigenous youth to sit at their table. And that table is not for us. We do not need that table. They need to be coming to us, into our communities, into our tables. Like we are not who we need to be in those situations. And so I will go into situations and have people really just trying to use me as a check mark. I'm the token Indigenous person. I meet all of their things. Like, was I in care? Yes. Am I male? Yes. Am I between the ages of 20 and 30? Yes. Am I gay? Yes. Am I Indigenous? Yes. Like all of these things. And so they're like, I'm a catch-all for a lot of people. They want me to just kind of sit there, look pretty, nod my head, talk about my trauma, and then they can give me a $15 gift card to fucking Timmy's and then shoo me off and I'm on my way. You know what I mean? And that's how it happens. And so for me to come in and say the things that I do, like, I'm not scared to tell the superintendent of education for my province that, hey, young people are killing themselves because of some of the policies that you're making. And then to have their mouths drop and to me be like, what do you want me to say? Like, you invited me here. I'm speaking my truth. The truth sometimes hurts. You know what I mean? Like, if it should hurt. Good. I want it to hurt. Like, be mad, stay mad, because if you're mad, those emotions hopefully will help you to make some fucking changes. Like, so I'm not scared to like break that idea of just kind of like, sit down, shut up, you're youth, like you don't really have anything to offer. Like, no. Like, invite me there, I'm gonna talk. And so yes, a lot of times it's people just not really wanting me to say anything and kind of not really understanding me and just kind of wanting me to be in and out. But that's why I think a lot of people ask me to come back and speak, is because I'm not scared to say the things that need to be said. And if it causes a lot of controversy and it causes me to be, if it gives me a reputation, then good. I want a reputation like that.
Hey, that's fun.
Hey, yeah, for sure. And yeah, Matt, like you said, instead of like them inviting us to go sit at their table, man, they got to come sit on the floor with us at the feast in the circle. We ain't got no tables, man. Yeah, but going back to that, Scott. So how do you incorporate being Two-Spirit with your fashion and what you're doing, I guess, designing? And if I butcher any terminology, don't be afraid to educate me and Ray, because we're still learning. And I'm going to ask some questions later on just about terminology and whatnot. But yeah, so back to the question, with you incorporating being Two-Spirit with your designing.
Well, like I said, like with being Two-Spirit and like what me and Kyron always say, like Two-Spirit peoples, we've always been kind of, leaders or healers within our communities. And that's something that, has always been a mission of mine to be for the fashion industry, is to kind of heal their kind of toxic ways and their whole mindset when it comes to, clothing, and their colonial mindset when it comes to it too, as well, because he also because as Indigenous people, we have a lot of knowledge that we could share, and a lot of wisdom, and a lot of people can look towards us as being inspirational for within the industries, various industries across not only fashion, but specifically in the environmental realm as well too. But yeah, like with my line, like I want to create a clothing line, which I've been actually kind of like developing, and I want to make it gender neutral is the colonial word, I guess you could say. But like I said, as Indigenous people, we never had this whole women's wear, men's wear type of mindset when it came to our clothes. So that's what I kind of want to do, is educate people with my brand, and about our ways of life, and how we see fashion, and how, like I said, how the mainstream fashion can kind of get inspired and educated through the use through Indigenous peoples. One of my collaborations, actually beginning in February, was kind of how I kind of used my Two-Spirit identity to use to kind of bring more awareness to the soul. So back in February, Leslie Hampton and we launched a jacket. It was in collaboration with the Anishinaabe Bemizmo, Emily McKinney. She's a youth in Manitoba. Her jingle cone company, she was launching her red cones at the time. So she sent a lot of red cones all around to different designers around Turtle Island, and Leslie Hampton happened to be one of them. And I was working with Leslie at the time. I was interning for her, and so she came up to me, and like while I interned with her, we kind of always just went back and forth on design ideas and what would be, what's next and what we could do to kind of, like, because we both had that same mindset. We wanted to, break down this mainstream fashion industry and their whole colonial mindset that they have with it. So we actually created this jacket. It was the start of the Hampton x Wabano collaboration, where we used the jingle cones to make a bomber jacket, and it was the red jacket. And the whole campaign was to bring awareness to the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. But me and Leslie, when we talked about it, me being a Two-Spirit person, I told her, like, when it comes to these inquiries, Two-Spirited people are often left out within these inquiries. We're not getting that recognition when we need what we need, because Two-Spirited people are also going missing as well too. Our Two-Spirited women, our Two-Spirited men. And that's something that me and Leslie kind of wanted to bring awareness with this collaboration, because we knew a lot of these designers were going to, speak about our women and the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. But no one's really talking about the missing and murdered Two-Spirited people as well too. So that's what we wanted to bring awareness to with this collaboration. And we did, thankfully, with the red jingle cones. This collaboration was a success. Like we sold the jacket. It was pretty good. And then which led to the other Hampton x Wabano collaboration, where we came out with the black versions with the silver, copper, and gold designs as well too. So just that's kind of been my work, has just been educating people, about especially the mainstream fashion industry, about Indigenous peoples and our ways of life, because throughout our whole fashion industry, we always see our people getting exploited and like getting our shit ripped off all the time, when it comes to like headdresses and our beadwork and all that shit. So I feel like as Indigenous people and as Indigenous artists, Indigenous designs, it's like we need to fucking like reclaim back this narrative that we've lost, and that's kind of been that we need to have back, so we could finally shift towards a more culturally aware industry, and a better respect and understanding for Indigenous people's ways of life. Because I feel like when Indigenous are these spaces I'm trying to occupy, it's like we're able to make this change that within industries like fashion. So that's kind of been my passion in fashion.
Hey, no doubt, no doubt. I want to ask you guys both, because obviously you do a lot of education and you do a lot of work in your own industries, being Two-Spirit. Do some people like kind of come at you guys or have some opinions about you guys, maybe gatekeeping or doing anything of that nature?
Yeah, all the time. Well, not all the time, but for some things, absolutely. There's sort of a how do I say it? Like within the Indigenous community, when you're trying to explain something that is not sort of common knowledge, and you're speaking from personal experiences, a lot of and you're one of the prominent people who are doing this educating, it can oftentimes start to look like you are sort of the figurehead of what that is, and it sucks because I'm really just out here trying to speak my truth, trying to explain who I am, what that means. People are asking me, so I'm answering. I'm just trying to do my job as a young two-spirit person to just kind of give as much information as I can within my realm of my ability, and also within what I'm allowed to tell and what I'm allowed to talk about. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, if you do get a little bit of attention or things like that, it can some of the feedback can come from a place of like, well, you know, you don't represent me, and also, well, hey, I'm a non-Indigenous person. I like this identity. This identity fits what I feel like I am. So how come I can't be two-spirit? And like, why are you telling me I'm not allowed to be two-spirit? Like, you don't own what two-spirit is, this and this and this. Like, sure, I don't own what two-spirit is, but I can also tell you by definition, two-spirit is in a sense, it's a community, ceremonial, cultural identity with specific roles within a community. And if you are a non-Indigenous person, that means you ain't even in the like you ain't even in the community. How the hell are you gonna claim something within a community? Like, how are you gonna hate from outside the club? You can't even get in. Like, that's how I feel. I'm like I'm not telling you you can't claim being two-spirit, but at the same time, I'm kind of telling you can't claim being two-spirit. Like, I want to know what your version of two-spirit is as a non-Indigenous person. Like, all right, Karen, you tell me, what's your two-spirit identity? School me on it. Like, I want to know. Like, I want to know. And so, in a sense, like, no, I'm not gatekeeping at all. Like, that's not. I'm not saying this is how all Indigenous people see two-spirit. I'm simply spreading my truth, and I'm answering questions that are being asked of me, questions that I think are important. I wouldn't be doing this amount of work within the two-spirit community if I, like I said earlier, if I didn't see the positive effects that it's having on our youth. Like, youth will literally, and they do this all the time, they always message me, always. They DM me on Instagram, they send me Facebook messages, they're messaging me on TikTok all the time, and like, they're saying like, I'm two-spirit, and you've helped save my life. Like, for a long time, I thought about ending my life, this and this and this. Seeing that there are other people like me that are strong and proud is really helpful. Like, I'm gonna start looking into this. This is giving me a new sense of purpose. All of this type of stuff, and it's so like, it makes me like, I ignore the haters after that kind of deal. Like, the people who are like, oh, you're gatekeeping, you're doing this or that. Like, no, I'm doing the work that needs to be done. If I don't do it, I don't see many other non-two-spirit people doing it. Like, who's gonna do it? You know what I mean? Like, we're really the ones. The people in my community need it. The young people who grew up like me within my communities, they need this work. They need to see people on social media talking about being two-spirit. They need podcasts like this where we're talking about gender and sexuality and being traditional and what that means and all this kind of stuff. So like, I will continue to do that because I know that it's important and it needs to be done. And if I'm able to do it, then absolutely. Why wouldn't I? You know what I mean?
Hey, for sure. And Scott, I just want you to touch probably a little bit more like of what Kyron's saying, but touch on it from like a fashion sense, because I'm sure that some people, Indigenous especially, have ideas about what you're doing with fashion, and they don't understand, or they don't like it, or they have problems with it. So like, how does that work when you're dealing with stuff like that?
Yo, like, it's been the same type of way too. Like, a lot of people think that there's this whole gatekeeping thing that I always tell myself. I always tell people that too. Whenever I do stuff like this, I always speak from myself and my point of view. And but also like I come from like my teachings as well too, and what I was taught, and what I communicate with, with my knowledge keepers, my elders. I'm very. A lot of people don't know that, but like I'm very like trying to like get the spiritual. Like I'm very spiritual. I'm very like in tune with myself, and like I'm very like in tune with my culture and with my knowledge keepers as well too. I communicate with them a lot, and I speak with them because as two-spirited people, we have gifts, we have knowledge, we have this sense of identity and this medicine that a lot of people don't have. So like I was told that like with my work within fashion, it's important, and it's this is my path. Has always been kind of my calling, and but like I said, like I'm not like this gatekeeper. I'm not like this whole knowledge keeper. I don't speak on behalf of all Indigenous people when it comes to like stuff within fashion. So like I know like and I get into hot waters a couple times with that too, like with the collaboration with Leslie and I. There was a sense of division within our collaboration as well too, because there are certain things that a lot of within our culture, like I said, there's a lot of gatekeeping that happens within our communities, and what we can share and what we cannot share with outside people. And I've always been educated in that sense, and I don't share a lot of my ceremonial teachings in public, or let alone over podcasts or through Zoom or stuff like that. That's just not how I was raised. So when it comes to stuff like that, like I said, I got into hot water with a collaboration with me and Leslie Hampton, where we launched a Hampton X Wabano jacket, and a lot of people had mixed feelings about that because the jacket had jingles on there, and a lot of people were under the impression that we were selling a jingle dress or something ceremonial, which is something me and Leslie have did throughout our whole process of our whole collaboration. Like we've been in contact with our communities and with our elders and knowledge keepers, and people who have the history of the jingle dress dance, and that's something that we wanted to avoid. Was like have people think that we're the speakers of all Indigenous people. And so a lot of people had mixed feelings about our collaboration, and if we were able to share certain aspects of Indigenous culture. So a lot of people didn't like that we, had jingles on there, because like I said, a lot of people thought we were selling a jingle dress, which was not the case at all. And that's kind of a line that's still a kind of a talk that's still happening within Indigenous fashion communities too. Can Indigenous people appropriate their own culture? And if so, like what's the line of what we can share and what we cannot share? And like I said, it comes from a lot of gatekeeping that happens within our own communities, and it's a very toxic colonial mindset, I feel, when it comes to that, because a lot of people judge without education. They assume without asking a lot of the times, and they kind of draw these conclusions that are far from the realistic thing. So it's been kind of tough, dealing with gatekeeping within fashion, like what I can share with the mainstream fashion and what I cannot share. But also, as a two-spirit person, I feel like that's kind of my role. That's where I step into, and this is where I'm supposed to do this work, because nobody else is doing this work. Nobody else is reclaiming back these narratives that were stripped from us for generations ago, when it came to our headdresses, when it came to, people using, Blackhawks as sports teams and stuff like that. Like there's not been that representation of Indigenous people who were there and able to say, this is not the way to go. No, this is actually like to teach, to provide that knowledge so we could kind of steer away from, appropriation a lot, because it happens a lot. So that's just the type of work that I've been trying to do.
Yeah. Hey, Ray, it's my turn. Just kidding.
Okay, go.
Yeah, no,
Better
that's the
become
thing
good.
too. That's the thing I want to bring up too, is like the whole cancel culture thing. It's like everybody's so quick to jump on a wagon without doing their own homework first, right? Without doing their own research and realizing like what it is, without forming their very own opinion about it. They see this bandwagon of all this hate and they just go with the masses because they assume they're doing the right thing, I assume. And that's where we're going wrong. And not only as Indigenous people, just like today's society is like this cancel culture thing is almost toxic. It's like nobody can make a mistake. Everybody has to walk on eggshells constantly all the time. And I feel for you because when you talk about gatekeeping too, it's just like how much is too much, you know what I mean? And that's something I have a hard time navigating, like what's exploitation and like what's appropriation. And I still don't know. Maybe to me it kind of seems like intent, I guess, is like what's your intentions with it. When whether you're whether like I guess whatever you're doing, whatever that you want to get the point across, it comes down to intentions with me, because some people do stuff for clout. They just do it just for the camera and it's empty and they don't live that lifestyle, you know what I mean? And then there's some people who have good intentions in doing that, but then behind the screen it might look like the exact same thing, but the backstories, it's very, very different of the way they approach it. So I don't know either. It's definitely strange. Do you have anything to add to that, Kat?
Sure. To answer your question about cancel culture and that kind of thing, like I said it earlier, but like cancel culture does not belong to us as Indigenous people. Bullying, it doesn't belong to us. All that humiliation doesn't belong to us. These are direct legacies of residential school. And they're there to hurt us, and they're toxic, and they're foreign, and they take lives, and they have real life consequences, and they continue that work of colonization. And so when it comes to that kind of stuff, I do think that it's becoming really dangerous, because especially for Indigenous people, I'm not sure why it's like that. I think Indigenous people just fall victim to the same things that every other kind of people fall victim to, and that's like the minute that we see people who are doing well, if there is a moment, like people love this downfall of they love to see that like rock star overdosing kind of deal, like I don't know why. And so if there's an opportunity for an Indigenous person, if we can dig up their past or something that they did, we look for kinks in the armor. And we spend a lot of energy looking for reasons not to believe what they're saying, reasons not to support them. And because of that, it's lateral violence, really. And it's a lot of people coming together to disavow what people are saying, and to completely ignore all of the good work that has been done based off of whatever it is that day, whether it's, you know, like oh, Scott made a jacket that has jingles on it, let's cancel everything he's ever done because I don't like that he put jingles on this jacket, kind of deal. Like, and there's people that have done that. He's got
River shot a res dog. I'm just kidding. I never shot a res dog. I'm just kidding. But
I would cancel you for that.
Nah, never shot a res
jump on
dog.
the cancel River bandwagon for that. Those dogs are sacred. No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't belong to us. It's colonial. That's it.
That's messed up. We can't be shooting res dogs here, man. Save the res dogs. I think there's a campaign going on. Y'all better check that out. They sell shit dogs, and they actually save res dogs. Hashtag save the res dogs.
One thing I want to ask you guys about too is just like I guess just like terminology. Like, I know it's not your job to educate us, but I just assume that I imagine you guys are more educated in terms of terminology than we are. And I remember it was, I don't know whether it was Scott or Kai saying that you didn't like the term two-spirited, you prefer two-spirit. If you want to educate us and everybody on that, because I feel like this is stuff that everybody can value learning from.
Sure. I made a TikTok video about this recently. Basically,
Follow me
answer
on
really
TikTok.
quickly. Follow me on TikTok if you aren't already to see all of my crazy rants. But basically, two-spirit versus two-spirited. I just talk about this because it's really just semantics at this point. Basically, I like the term two-spirit because it implies being a person. It implies a noun, and it implies me being two-spirit. It's not that I have two spirits. It's that I am a two-spirit person, and so I stop saying I'm two-spirited, or I stop saying, oh, that's very two-spirited, because it's like the ed at the end of spirit implies like an adjective that is past tense. And how can something be spirited? That doesn't make sense. Something either has spirit or it doesn't have spirit. How can something be spirited? And it just sounds really foreign and weird to call myself a spirited person. And so I always say I am a two-spirit person. Presently, I am two-spirit. It's not that I'm spirited. It's that I'm a two-spirit person at all times, in all ways. And that's why I call myself a two-spirit person. So I don't like people say like, oh, Kai is a two-spirited person from this. Like, no, Kai is a two-spirit from, this word. Like, and that's just a little bit of like me just choosing to identify that way. I mean, we have to acknowledge that two-spirit already is a colonial term, so it's kind of just nitpicking at this point. It's like we already acknowledge it's not the word that we should be using, but it's the word that we have, so let's use it. But if we're going to do that, let's use it kind of with intent.
Yeah, for sure. And how about like with using like the terminology for like trans, I guess, because I get confused when somebody say like trans woman or trans man. Because I know like there's I guess the sex you were born with, and then there's your transition phase, and then there's what you rightfully become. So like whenever somebody's calling themselves like a trans woman, is that they were born, I guess, like with female reproductive organs and they're transforming into a man, or how does that work? Like I'm really trying to get educated on that to use proper terminology, but like that's something that kind of just, I don't know, blows my mind.
Sure. Basically, so it goes back to just very basic definitions of gender and sex, which are two different things. So oftentimes, a lot of people will mistake gender for sex, or sex for gender, but they are completely different things. Sex being, the sexual characteristics and sexual organs that you are born with. So, for example, you're biologically male. You were born a male with male reproductive organs. That's your sex. You were assigned M at birth, and then as you grow up, your gender is gender is a societal creation. Gender is everyone making that up. We've made up gender. It doesn't exist. We have created it. So a lot of people mistake that. They think I was born with a penis, therefore I have to have short hair, I have to like trucks, I have to like violence, I have to like the color blue. That, like, literally, where did that come from? We created that. We created all of that. And so that's why I always try to let people know that when I talk about being two-spirit, you have to really understand just basic, like, gender is this, sex is this. And so gender is very much what we have told people to do, and then sex just so happens to be what they were born with. And so to answer your question about transgender just means the kind of opposite of what or something not basically what you were you're like cis. How can I explain this? Like, so me as a male, I identify as a male as my gender. I was born with male sex organs. If, for example, I was transgender and I told you I'm a transgender female, that would mean that I transition into a female. So I would stand in front of you saying, I am a woman. My name is Karen, and I'm a woman, and I was born male. And I'm talking about my sexual organs at that point. So I'm not talking about my gender. I'm saying I was born male, and now my gender, I'm transgender. So my gender is different than what I was assigned at birth. You know how people do like gender reveal parties, and they're like, "Oh, it's blue. This is the boy." They're kind of like telling their child, "This is what you are," and instead of saying like, well, we can get into that later. But basically, I would be telling you that I am a woman now, and you must address me as that. That's how I feel comfortable, regardless of whatever is between my legs. That has nothing to do with anything, and that's completely my business. And so if I'm telling you I am a woman, regardless of whether I look like the kind of woman you are used to, that is my right to tell you that. And so basically trans is just kind of anything that differentiates between what was sort of assigned at birth.
Oh,
so
yeah.
What a lot of transgender people do is they say I'm trans M to F, so male to female, or I'm trans FTM, female to male. And everybody is so like concerned about, have you had the operation? Have you cut your penis off? Like, that's so offensive. Like, don't ask that. Also, don't say the TRANNY. We don't use that anymore. That's offensive. So like, yeah, regardless of what kind of sexual organs they have, ask them. They will tell you. They know better than you do, kind of deal.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I want to know. I'm a little bit partial. I mean, Tia Wood's my favorite TikToker, but right after her, it's you two boys, man. You guys are killing it on TikTok. There's so much funny content that you come out. Stop, bro. I could tell that your isolation was getting to you because you were making some of like your best content in there, bro. As well as you two, Kai. Like, just with all like, where does it come from? Because for me personally, bro, that shit's like super relatable. Like, you guys are like just making jokes that like all Indigenous people like know, they go through, they feel. Like, it's just straight up res comedy that you don't get anywhere else. So tell us a little bit about like TikTok content creation, where it comes from. We'll start with Scott.
Yeah, so well, basically it all started with COVID isolation, literally. You know, it all kind of stemmed to like when I was in isolation, how I felt as a child. You know, growing up in Moose Factory, I was in an isolated community. Where was my form of escapism? It was oftentimes social media and, you know, seeking videos and humor and all that. So TikTok happened, and that's when I actually got introduced to TikTok. Was like beginning of like March or something like that. It was when I started making TikTok videos. Basically, my inspiration just comes from my daily life, really, my past life, my past life, all my lived experiences, and, you know, like you said, like what we all lived through. And, you know, it's so important to kind of be that representation because, you know, there's kids out there, there's youth that are kind of, you know, struggling with themselves, like Kai said, who kind of feel like they don't belong. And when they kind of see that res humor or something that they've been through, if they've ever gotten nits before, like that video blew up. Everyone has gotten nits before. It's so good to kind of like get that, you know, you feel you could relate to something, you know, you feel connected, you feel, you know, you're part of something, you know, and it's so important to kind of make content like that where you feel that, you know, because oftentimes they don't feel like in their own communities. So it's kind of important to, you know, have a little platform like TikTok, even just to kind of provide that sense of community for Indigenous youth around Turtle Island, around the world.
Hey, no doubt. What about you, Kai?
I'm just fucking losing it, and so I just make chaotic ass videos. Basically, when I go on like social media, TikTok and Instagram and all that kind of stuff, and I see these like rich white kids like making content about like doing all these weird challenges, and like that is so foreign to me. It's like watching a reality TV show. Like it's not reality at all to me. I'm just like, holy crap, how the hell am I supposed to relate at all to this? Like, none of these people look like people I grew up with. We didn't grow up, you know, 15, 16 years old driving Teslas. Like, none of that shit. I can relate to. I don't feel seen. I don't feel like I know that. It's a world that I don't exist in. And that's the same thing that's been happening for like forever. In indigenous people, like native people, we don't exist in those worlds. And actually we've been erased from any type of like popular media. And so when I log on to TikTok, I get to see like people like Scott and people like Tia doing videos where I'm like, hey, that's my language, or hey, like I grew up with that, or hey, you look just like my sister, or like hey, like we laugh about that too where I'm from. Like it is so nice to feel represented in a space that doesn't represent you at all. Like to walk, you ever like walk into a like university is the best place to like say that. When I was in my first year of university, I had the worst imposter syndrome. It was like, holy shit, I don't belong here. Nobody here is like me. Nobody here looks like me. It's a scary feeling. And then native TikTok is like walking into a classroom of like 100 people, looking around, not seeing anybody that you know, getting nervous. And then you turn around and you see this table of like 6 native people being like, come sit with us, come sit with us. It's that warm hug that you get. It's like, oh, finally, like this is like where I belong. These are my people. Like you feel safe, you feel warm. It's a good feeling. I make stupid auntie videos because I have 14 aunties and they're all loving and they're all crazy and they all make me laugh and they all teach me things. And I grew up with that. And I know that like a lot of other people grow up with like crazy aunties and sisters and kokums like that. And so I make videos I make videos inspired by day-to-day conversations that I think are hilarious, that people don't really, if you haven't really grown up with that, it's kind of hard to connect with that. But if you do connect with it, what a cool thing to be able to like log on to TikTok where there's like hundreds of millions of people and to see like a conversation that I had with like my kokum in like while she like drinks her tea. Like that can't happen really anywhere. And so that's why I think it's so unique and so special. And that's why I think a lot of people are like resonating with it, because it's like, hey, this is my people. Like I'm here, and this is some representation that you don't get all the time. So like you want to really be proud of that. And I'm proud of making them, and I'm proud of like supporting all the other people that make me laugh on a day-to-day basis. Laughter is medicine, 100%.
Yeah, no doubt. We kind of want to talk a little bit too about, just like our own personal journeys with where we're going at, and just trying to unlearn a lot of things, about and being more understanding. I guess the question that I have for you guys and what I want to know a little bit more about is what can I do? What can I do besides, trying to unlearn? Because Kai, especially, I remember when we first kind of connected and wanted to do this podcast, you said something that stuck with me that I still use to this day in a lot of things now. And that's that intent doesn't erase action, is I believe what you said. And that was very profound. Impact, sorry. And just to hear that and know, because me and River when we were talking about it with you guys, we were kind of copping out a little bit and saying, we didn't mean to, or it wasn't our intention, but we were homophobic at a time. We did say stupid things, and we let things slide in our friend circles and just being, toxic men, I guess, without understanding a little bit more. So me personally, I just want to know, what can we do? Where can we take it? How do we take it?
You kind of like one thing that's important is to acknowledge what I like to call straight privilege. There are a lot of even gay people who are openly gay who benefit from straight, quote unquote, straight privilege, and essentially all it is just this way of being able to move through the world without being seen as visibly gay. Because even though, as we know, being gay is not a bad thing, it is to a lot of really small-minded people. And because of that, you become a target. I live my life quite openly as a gay person, as a queer person, as a two-spirit person, and I don't mind wearing makeup. I don't mind dyeing my hair all these crazy colors, and I don't mind wearing things that straight men would never wear. That's who I am, and I'm happy doing that. And unfortunately, I'm smaller. I'm a lot smaller than you guys, and Scott is the same size as me. We're seen as very vulnerable, and we are, because we're vulnerable to things like attacks, whether they're physical, whether they're discrimination in the workplace, or whether it's discrimination in sort of any setting, we don't benefit from just being able to glide through the world unnoticed. And I think that something you can do as two men who are quite masculine is to acknowledge that and to look out for opportunities to check yourselves, because you are masculine, but it goes even further than that. Like, there's such a thing as being too masculine, and unfortunately, when you're a big masculine person, you take up a lot of space. You do, regardless of whether you try to or not, and unconsciously you are making it not unsafe, but it's not easy for a person like, for example, myself, to be able to have that same effect on people. And so if you do see, like, it's the same thing. Like, if River was walking behind a girl in the dark on a sidewalk, and I was walking behind her, who do you think she's going to be more scared of? Like, you have these effects on people without knowing that you do, and it's not your fault. It's just the way the world works, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always tell my friends who are quite macho, and who have that bravado, I tell them, like you really have an opportunity to stick up for, and it's not your responsibility, but if you're asking how to help, you can help by doing that. You can help by putting people in their place when they see people talking about two-spirit people. If you hear people mocking, men who wear makeup, or women who are like tomboys, or who are butch, or all that kind of stuff, like, you know how many beautiful indigenous people are men who wear makeup, or women who have short hair and who are butch. Like, those are some of the best people that I know, and they exist in every single community, and those are your brothers and those are your sisters. And if you're gonna protect your little sister because she's getting bullied, I think that we all have a moral obligation to protect all of our two-spirit queer relations, because they're the ones, clearly, if we look at statistics, they're the ones who need it the most, because they're the ones going missing. They're the ones being murdered, as well as the women. They're the ones who are killing themselves at astrological rates, really, really sad, heartbreaking, devastating rates. It's our two-spirit brothers and sisters. So it's all fun and games to joke about, like, seeing, if you go to a party, for example, and you see a guy who's very openly feminine, and then there's some dudes being like, that fucking faggot, like, don't fucking touch me, ugh, gross. Like, what if he goes home and ends his life? That's not even a stretch to say that happens. It's not hypothetical. That happens all the time. All the time. And so these little actions that we think are like, so, yeah, well, it wasn't a big deal. That's just it. The fact that we don't think it's a big deal is why it is a big deal. And that person's family is going to feel that devastating loss. But to the people who, like, contributed in, like, making this person not feel safe or make them feel ashamed, they're going to just absolve themselves of guilt because they don't really see it as a big deal. But I can tell you, as a feminine, queer person, little things like that, they stick with you. They grind at your brain and they sit with you. I can remember a lot of really, really bad trauma that I went through when I was younger, being bullied by, like, straight guys on the res, having rocks thrown at me, being told that I'm fruity. They used to change my name and, like, call me, like, fruity all the time, or call me fairy, and they would attack me and throw shit at me. And, like, I remember feeling always so unsafe around people that look like you, River. Like, there's a lot of people who are, like, for example, like, hockey players, and there's this like unspoken thing. I don't know what it is. It's like, if you got to be manly, you got to be a male. If you're an indigenous dude, you got to be stoic, you got to be a warrior. Does that mean that you also need to, like, hurt your community, be violent towards your community? Like, no, it's so twisted. But there's so much of it going on. It's this, like, old boys club where it's like there's absolutely no feminine anything that can be a part of that, and it exists in so many reserves. And because of it, why do you think all of these two-spirit people, these queer people who are like Scott and I, take off from the reserve to go to the city to find havens of solace, to find people that are like them. It's scary. It's so scary. And unfortunately, our people, our men, are huge perpetrators of that. And I say that because I know it to be true, because I've lived that experience. And I think that just even me giving you that knowledge that it's happening, I think you can kind of see it. You can see it in the community happening. And if you're saying like, oh, maybe at one point he and I were a bit oblivious that we were doing it, then that's good. That means that like this conversation is worth it, because that means that going forward, you can learn to acknowledge it better. You can see things that are normalized to you, but now I'm telling you they're not normal. And I'm telling you, you know, when you say like, oh, he probably takes it up the ass as a joke, what if that person is struggling so hard with their identity? What if it's like eating them up, and you telling him he takes it up the ass all the time is like your way of like being cool with him, but it's eating away at him. Like, there's so many other things you could say to joke with him, to make him feel like, you know, you're friendly with him. Find ways to like change the language that you use. Even like, be aware of the space you take up, be aware of the energy that you're giving, and that will change. That's little things that you can do in your day-to-day life that will change everything. Imagine if a young man like me, who was like maybe 12 years old, comes up to you as this hockey player who he looks up to, blah blah blah, and he comes up to you and he's wearing makeup, and instead of you going, bro, don't wear this, like, chicks aren't gonna like you if you're wearing this makeup. Imagine how devastating that'll be for him. But if he comes up to you and you hug him and you say like, oh, I like your eyeliner or something, or oh, your makeup looks really cool, man, you'll probably like make that kid's day. Like, let them be who they are. Like, our kids need to be kids. They need to grow up too, just like you got the chance to grow up. And we as the older generation have the means to do it, and we have the responsibility to do it. So we just got to do it. We got to create safe spaces for these people to nourish. It takes a village to raise our young people. We are literally that village. We got to do it. No one else is going to do it. It's us.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's true. And like Ray said too, like personally, I was never really I was, I guess, what you'd call homophobic, because like I had a cousin who was Two-Spirit. I had an uncle who actually just passed away the other day who was Two-Spirit, and so like I was always very accepting and opening, I felt, but like it was those little microaggressions, I guess, and it was just the use of language was something that I was never aware of. And like when you said what you said about race said earlier about intention doesn't erase impact, like that stuck with me. And one thing that really stuck with me too is how you said that we're not teaching because they're not learning, we are unlearning. I remember you told me that like a month ago, and that's something that really stuck with me. That's something that I'm really trying to do, I guess, is like I'm realizing that the stuff that I said and done may have not been like blatantly homophobic, but it might have been hurtful in the past, and that's something I'm trying to fix. Like right now, I may have a two-spirited nephew. He's a little guy, cutest kid in the world. He likes Barbies, you know, he likes playing around with like all this stuff. And like I'm trying to navigate a relationship with him where I want him to know that I love him for who he is and I accept him for who he is. And I'll probably ask more advice with you guys on that. But like, I don't know, is it too early, I guess, to like really put a stamp on something that I don't know? Because like he'll be playing with his dolls and be like, okay, like play with your dolls later. You want to come skate with me? And like I'll take him skating. You know what I mean? Like I try to be very, very open and I just let him be him, but I also want to spend time with him and like do stuff that I don't mind doing as well.
I think kids will tell you, like, if you're like, hey, want to go skate? And he's like, no, that's kind of like, there you go. Like he doesn't want to skate. Just let them kind of figure it out on their own. People are always asking me like, isn't it too, like, this is a criticism I get. It's too like early for you to be telling like 5-year-olds or 6-year-olds about, you know, liking the same sex and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Fuck that. I'm so angry about that, because like when I was young growing up, I was learning about, people are like, oh, go go kiss her. This is your little girlfriend. I'm literally a toddler, and they're like bringing this girl to me. Oh my god, kiss her! Ah, you're a little heartbreaker. You're literally forcing children to like kiss each other. That's fucked up, if you ask me. Like since like an early age, we're seeing sex all over TV, all over movies, in songs. We're hearing it all the time, but it's hetero. It's hetero sex. That's the difference. So no, it's not too early to tell a 5-year-old that it's okay to like another person of the same sex, because they're gonna go home and they'll have no choice but to be shown it by every single media form in the world, and they'll see it. They'll see it from your mom. They'll see it from your dad, your uncle. They will always see that. Like, we're not protecting them from the outside world. They're gonna get that anyway. We're just making sure that they have the tools and the knowledge, and they have the wherewithal to be able to understand what they're seeing, so that in the future, if they do see same-sex anything, it's not this, oh my god, I didn't see this growing up, this is not okay, this is not normal. Let's start building that foundation as early as possible. Like don't be scared to be like, hey, you know, whatever your nephew's name is, like, if you're gonna tease them about having like a partner, just be like, you know, after you're talking to them about like, well, when you're older, when you have like a girlfriend, don't just assume that. You can even just change your language a little bit. Well, when you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend, whatever, you know, whoever you're with when you're older, even just making that such a nonchalant little thing, like, you could make such a big difference, because now he thinks, oh, so it is an option if I want to have a boyfriend. Like, I don't have to automatically, you know, my uncle's going to be mad at me if I say boyfriend instead of girlfriend. That was something that always sat with me when I was younger. People would always say, oh, you're a little heartbreaker, you're so cute. Because I was a cute fucking kid, man. Like, I had a girlfriend, I had lots of girlfriends. But everyone would be like, oh, like, you look like Justin Bieber, you're going to break all these girls' hearts. I wasn't even interested in girls. But I felt so obligated to tell my friends and family, I have a girlfriend. You know how exhausting that is? Imagine someone came up to me and was like, well, you know, when you get a boyfriend or a girlfriend, whoever it's going to be, like, you know, you can this, and this. Like, that would be so freeing and so, like, okay to hear. But that shit, it doesn't happen all the time. And so if we arm people like you with these tools to be like, hey, little nephew or little whatever, like, show them gay people, show them two-spirit people. They've probably never seen one in their life. Know that it's normal. Like, allow them to see that, and don't. Yeah, representation matters, basically.
Okay. Cool. You have anything to add, Scott?
Yeah, no, that's basically what I was going to say too. It's really good to kind of, let children just kind of navigate who they are, like celebrate who they are too. Like, don't kind of force this whole, like, you know, oh, that's a girl's toy, or when you have a girlfriend when you're older, like, exactly. Just like having little conversations like that where you open up your conversation to boyfriend or girlfriend and kind of just celebrating the types of traits that they have, like not judging them whatsoever. Because I remember growing up and I used to be very flamboyant and very girly and all that. And a lot of people would tell me, oh, no, that's not what boys like, or you're not supposed to like that. That's only what girls like. And I feel like that also was a very harmful thing in my learning, becoming myself, tapping into my identity, and kind of a form of trauma, I guess you could say, on why I wasn't able to, tap into my two-spirit identity at a young age as much as I wanted to. So it's really important when, I've seen a comment from Candace, like, you guys are just acknowledging like your past wrongs and, wanting to learn about this and, learning from people like Kai and I, and opening up spaces like that for not only you guys to learn, but for other people to learn too. Like, that's the great starting point. And that's where a lot of, Indigenous males should be looking towards you and having these conversations and, providing this sense of education and, this space, the safe space for two-spirit individuals like me and Kai.
Can I just say one really quick thing?
Yep.
This is not, age doesn't make you any less susceptible to being homophobic. A lot of the homophobic people that I've experienced are older people. I'm talking 40s, 50s, even 60s. Like, the people who were supposed to be protecting me and be role models to me, and they're the ones doing it. And that's when it hurts the most. So people of all ages can unlearn things. It can change their behaviors. It's never too late to learn. I saw a comment in the chat saying it sounds more like enforcing a viewpoint rather than just letting things be. You know, when you expose people to being two-spirit or stuff like that. But I think there's a difference between you saying, look, two-spirit people exist, or like, hey, it's okay that you use Barbies, or hey, if you want a boyfriend or a girlfriend, that's cool. That's not forcing anything. That's like, we exist. What, are you gonna hide us? Like, we exist everywhere. It's not letting people know that we exist is not forcing anything. In fact, heteronormative behaviors, heterosexual relationships are literally forced on us. Every single popular media you learn in school. I don't think I ever learned one thing about being gay when I was in any of my schooling, especially not on the res. Like, every single book that we did a study on was a heterosexual relationship. Every movie we watched was a male and a female. Like, God forbid we show one gay anything. It's not forcing that onto people. It's just saying we exist. Like, our existence is just there. Like, don't tell the kid you're gay because you like Barbies. What if your nephew just likes Barbies? That doesn't even mean that he likes boys.
Mm-hmm.
He could just like Barbies. It could just be really cool for him. Maybe he likes playing hockey with you, and he goes out with you all the time and plays hockey, and then bam, you find out he's gay. It could happen. Like, so it's not. I'm just saying, expose them to it at a young age. Let them make their own decisions. They're going to anyway. You have no influence on whether or not they're gay or not, or two-spirit or whatever it is. You literally can't change that. You're not the creator. And so let them blossom the way they're going to blossom, but don't show them. Don't hide these like parts of the community, because two-spirit people, we're here and we're a part of the community just as much. And it's good that they know that it's there just in case. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's facts, man. You are not the creator, but for real. And I like completely agree with that. It's you're just exposing them to learn more. You're not forcing anything upon them. They can make the choice themselves, right? And what I'm getting from this, and what I guess I want to see something happen, is we need more safe spaces for two-spirit people on reserves. That's something that I got from this conversation, because when you guys talked about that like half hour ago, how you guys said he basically moved to town, it's like we have to put more safe spaces for these individuals on First Nations. And that is something that I personally want to work towards, especially having like a loved ones and close ones who that may affect them first-handedly, right?
Exactly. And it's important too, because like you said, I had to leave my First Nation to learn about being a two-spirit individual, like, which is so backwards to me. You know, I had to leave my community. I had to leave my people to know about an identity that existed within our people for generations. And so it's important. Yeah, like you said, we need to create more safe spaces for two-spirit individuals, not only within a city setting, but within our own Indigenous communities as well too, and providing those resources for youth like myself, you know, who are struggling and who want to learn and who feel different. You know, we don't want to lose any more youth that we've already lost. We want to celebrate them.
I'm really glad that you brought that up, River, because organizations like the one I work for currently and the one that I used to work for, we literally are doing that work. We're creating, like, for example, here in Alberta, a good friend of mine, James and Anthony, the ones who won Amazing Race Canada, they actually let us use their land. They let the Edmonton Two-Spirit Society use their land and create a safe ceremonial space for two-spirit people to come and learn how to put up a sweat lodge, learn how to put up a teepee, learn how to facilitate healing circles and sharing circles. And not only did they say come and learn, they said let me teach you. And they didn't wait for you to ask. They said, hey Kai, come and help me do this. I'm going to show you how to do it. Like, we were able to go there and we were able to learn in a safe space on traditional lands, and that is so powerful. Like, to be able to come into ceremony as a two-spirit person and to be given teachings about how to put up these ceremonies ourselves because traditionally a lot of Two-Spirit people, a lot of ceremonies wouldn't even happen unless a Two-Spirit person was present. And so if you want to know how to create more safe spaces on reserves for Two-Spirit people, you need to put your support and your finances into organizations and people who are already doing that work. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We don't need to say, how can we do this? Two-Spirit people are already doing it. Look around, do some research, find out who's doing it, give them the power to do it. It's not your place to create these spaces. They need to be created for Two-Spirit people by Two-Spirit people. But as allies in the community, we can uplift those people and help them to do the work that they need to do. And we need to advocate for them. We need to put money into them, resources into them, give them the time, and give them the space to do it. And it can happen. It's happening right now as we speak.
Cool.
And this is a good way of you guys doing that, literally as we speak right now.
Yeah, can you like plug the resources? Because I see a lot of comments of people saying that, oh, my loved one is Two-Spirit, my son is, or whatever, and they don't know where to go and what to do. So do you mind, I guess, just sharing those resources with people quickly?
Sure. So the ones that I was mentioning, there's the Edmonton Two-Spirit Society. If you're in Treaty 6, Treaty 7 area, you can check them out. E2S, space Edmonton Two-Spirit Society on Facebook. You can also find their website at www.e2s.ca. You can go on my social medias, and I always share stuff, or Scott's social media, he always shares stuff about Two-Spirit resources. There's the Two-Spirits in Motion Society, which is a national organization that's kind of like a grandfather of E2S, and for a lot of organizations that has a national board. So they're TUSIM, TUSIM, Two-Spirits in Motion Foundation. They do a lot of great work. The organization that I work for currently, Two-Spirit People of the First Nations, that's based in the Greater Toronto area. They're also a really awesome organization. You can find them on Facebook at Two-Spirit People of the First Nations, if you just type that in. And they do great work in the community, frontline work. Literally, they're out there delivering traditional medicines in boxes to our Two-Spirit people. They're delivering food hampers to our people. They're delivering gift cards, and they're literally going out and delivering stuff to our people. They put their money where their mouth is, and they're able to really do the work that people. Someone's just reading out Keenan.
Where that is.
He was talking like a robot earlier, so his ResNet is just fucking holding on by a thread. Scott's running out of minutes on his phone.
Oh my god.
Yo, that's funny. That is hilarious. Yo, how about, man, let's let that springboard us into a fun little game that we haven't played in a long time, that we call How Resi Are You? All right, man, if you get like 3 or 4 of these, then for sure you're Resi as hell. So each one you guys can answer. All right, the first one is, have you ever cold spooned hickeys?
Usually less than 3. I need to let people know. I'm engaged.
All the hickeys that I've gotten, you can't see them on me, so I don't need to.
Hey, there we go. All right. Do you put chips in your bologna sandwich?
No.
It's gonna be. I want to though.
What? You guys got to do that, man. That's
I've never done it personally.
All right, I have one. Okay, so growing up on a res, you go to school one day, you don't have a toque, and then the teacher's like, "Hey, bring a toque tomorrow." So you roll up, and it's like one of them like Budweiser toques from like from a 2-4 pack. You know, you guys ever rock one of those?
Those hoops on deck.
Holy no! But I went to school with a Royal Reserve sticker on my backpack once.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
I was like, oh, I'm a proud Canadian. I'm gonna put this sticker on my backpack.
That's next level rugged. All right, next one. Does your family hit you up for e-transfers from time to time?
Yeah. I don't even sometimes don't even gotta ask, say hello or nothing. Just how much?
Sorry, thank EMT, $20.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
My family from time to time too.
Hey, there you go.
You ever swim in a ditch?
Right in front of my grandpa's, actually. I had in a frog pond while catching frogs.
Ew, just got warts, probably too. Scott just running around with the warty ass fingers. I was a kid who just watched people do it. It was too yucky for me. Like, if you've swam in ditches, you're immune to COVID. For real.
Yeah.
I think that's why. Yeah.
That's no cap. All right, next one. Have you ever like shacked up in the reserve and then just like not left the room the whole time? Like their cookum's asking you like to come out and clean the dishes or like, you know what I mean? Like, and you just ain't leaving the room.
Oh, I remember I spent the whole weekend without leaving some guy's room just to go to the bathroom because I was so scared of his family.
Oh, that's so ugly. My first date though, with my ex-boyfriend, I stayed over for 4 days. So, no, we don't do the dating thing. You just fucking shack up.
4 days.
Shack up with me so I know it's real.
All right, man. We're just gonna go ahead and say that y'all resi as hell. Anyone in the comments got another one? Come on. Y'all must have some good content in here. Actually, you know what? Why don't we do that? We're gonna transition this a little bit. We'll open it up to some fan questions. If you got some questions for either Scott, Kai, or both, hit us up in the comments right now. Hold up. We'll let him roll in for a second. Yo, that's funny. We ain't done that segment in a minute. Just because, like, sometimes, yeah.
Yo, do any of you guys want to give us Cree word of the day?
Yeah. Who's got Cree word of the day?
Cree word of the day.
Doesn't have to be Cree. It could be Stony. Anything
And
you want.
not Cree TSD either.
Yeah, not Cree TSD.
My favorite Cree word is escorteo.
Meaning? Tell the people that don't know.
Fire. Escorteo. Fire.
Escutel. Hey.
It's just fire.
Mine is Milogishagao. It's a beautiful day. Something my grandpa always used to sing, and there is a song she's had that word in there, Cree, and it all reminds me of her. So I always just live my life by that. Milogishagao. It's a beautiful day.
Hey.
Oh, you also have to remember that his Cree is way different than my Cree. He's literally from on the other side of the country. My Cree is so different.
You Cree, like me and like Kyron noticed that a lot of our Cree words aren't similar. You guys say tonse, like we say wache. Like you guys say munyas, we say stuck shoes.
Yeah. Scott's sounding like R2D2 right now.
I told you, he's running out of minutes. He's got that dial-up.
All right. We got a couple more here.
Sorry.
We got a couple more. Have you ever licked butter off your fry bed?
No.
Never.
You know you're resi when you go into the fridge and you open the margarine and it's just covered in just black residue from dry meat.
Yo, no cap. Or else even worse when you go to like open it and it's like some old soup with the grease all on the top or something like that. That's the worst. That's crazy.
Never mind. I used to eat cereal out of a margarine container. We used to save our margarine containers.
Don't do that.
Always get the biggest bowl. Yeah, that's funny. Hold up. All right. How many blanket doors did you have in your house growing up?
None.
Actually, only in the basement.
I feel
I know when you used to just make rooms in the basement, unfinished basement.
Just the dividers? Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Uncle's room in the basement. You go downstairs and they're just real cool rooms, just big blankety. Go in there. He's got his weights, real ugly weights. He's got like his R&R stickers all over. He's got a little milk crate with his TV on it next to his PS4. just doing blades off
Big
a
ol-
hot plate. Holy fuck.
Big old Tupac blanket. Yo, for real.
Bro, that's so good.
Just stashed a case of Pepsi. And he just works out real lots down there and no gains at all.
This works out, doesn't eat right. Barely sleeps, no gains.
Just trying to make gains eating noodles every day. No protein whatsoever.
Oh my god, bro. There's no reason.
Yo,
No
bro,
cap.
yo. You got to make a TikTok about that. For real, man. That's too funny. That's too funny.
I'm triggered. Just kidding.
Yeah. You can't forget the holes in the drywall too, someone said. Yo.
Have you ever put mayonnaise in a plastic bag on your head for knits? Holy fuck. Was that a traditional method? I didn't know.
Bro, that works. That works. I've had it happen before.
The same as ginger ale.
What?
Ginger ale? What?
What?
You know how they say ginger ale fixes everything, sickness and stomach.
Oh shit! Like Indian medicine. Yeah.
But it does.
Yeah, it does.
But it does work.
Fuck, never mind. I wish that I got mayonnaise on my head. My mom would just shave it, no question. I itch once, they just get the clippers. And like, as a two-spirit person, my hair is so like, my hair is everything to me. I love my hair. I'm always doing cool hair stuff. I would get my head shaved so much when I was a kid and just cry. Just like that was trauma. Just getting my head shaved, and I'm like. You know, I used to call it the poor kid haircut because you could tell. I went to a native school, so every time someone would come to school with a shaved head, everyone would just laugh.
Yo,
Where it's just like shaved underneath.
bro, that's no cap. Yeah, I remember too, man. Like the day before, it would be like the lice checks at school, and then all of a sudden, like the next day, like 2 or 3 of the bros would just roll up, and we'd all have shaved heads. And, like no. Like I wanted to shave my head. It was just convenient that it happened on lice check. We got a dope question here. I want to know this too as well. Who is a role model for you two as two-spirit people? Two-spirit youth. Sorry.
Well, I already mentioned him earlier. James McCocus, who's a two-spirit physician here he's from the Saddle Lake Cree Nation. I met him when I was quite young. I'm blessed to be able to have a friendship with my role model. He was somebody I looked up to when I would walk the halls of my high school as a young two-spirit person. I was 15, 16, and I would see posters of him because he was doing all these great programs, and he was in school at the time for medicine. And I would look up to him and think like, wow, that's so awesome. And I would hear the words two-spirit and like see him. And I was just really inspired. I was like, holy crap, I'm gonna graduate. I'm gonna go to university. I'm gonna be like him. This is so great. And as I grew up, I actually ended up getting a chance to meet him through a couple of just people in the community. I must have met him in Enoch maybe. But then I got a chance to be on a council with him. I was a youth co-chair for the Wisdom Council in Edmonton, and he was one of the co-chairs of that council. And so I got to work with him in a professional capacity for 4 years. And then we just formed a nice friendship out of that. And so I'm really blessed. And he's still somebody that I look up to a lot. He's doing so many great things now with transgender health in the Indigenous community. He's making documentaries, winning, reality TV shows. He's traveling the world, and he's really just like doing it out there and making ways for two-spirit people. So that's my role model, and I am blessed to say that he's a friend of mine.
That's dope. Scott?
One of my role models would probably have to be Sean Snyder, actually. He's from the States. He's another two-spirit individual who he was a grass dancer, actually, a fancy dancer, and he actually switch danced in the jingle dress category as well one day too. And I don't know, I found him on Instagram about 2-3 years ago when I was, coming to terms with my two-spirit identity, and he was one of the people that wanted me to learn more about who I was, and he kind of inspired me to kind of, made me realize that I can still walk traditional path and be a power spirit as well too. And yeah, he's been a really good role model to look up to.
That's dope. That's dope. We got another one here. Give me one sec. How would you two support those younger than you who haven't come out to their families yet? Kai, you can go first.
I assume you mean like speaking from their perspective, how can they support young people who are younger in their families?
Yeah. Sorry.
I would assume that way because but we talked about it a little bit already with River when he brought up his nephew potentially being Two-Spirit. Basically, you have to kind of create a space in which these young people can blossom, because they're little seeds, right? They got to blossom, they got to grow, you got to give them water and sunlight. But that water and sunlight comes in so many different ways, and you as an older person in the family, it's your job to help make sure that they get that. And so little things like not closing any doors on and any possibilities on who they can be. If you start noticing signs of a little girl being very, very feminine, I noticed that a lot of young feminine girls always get labeled as a tomboy, and that's like the age old thing that people say, oh, she's a tomboy, like or just and it's not the same as like a little boy being very feminine. He's not a tom girl. They just call him sissy, and they call him like gay, and they call him all these kind of things. So I think just watching the language that we use with our young people, showing them that you support gay people without them having to ask, like you saying, oh, I have this like really cool. You can even like if you need to, you can use me as like as an example of that. You can say, I have this cool friend, his name is Kai. And you can like tell them that like these people exist and they're your friends and you like them, so that they don't have to wonder, I wonder if like my cousin or my auntie or my older brother likes gay people, would he be okay with that? Answer their questions before they have to ask them. No young person wants to be like, oh my god, is it okay for me to be Two-Spirit? What if you just infused it into your day-to-day life where it's like not a big deal? It's really not a big deal. You can like you can hide those little gems into everyday conversations and let them tell you who they are at their own pace, but let them know that whatever they choose and whoever they are and whatever they decide and kind of come into themselves, that you've already nurtured that that growth. And when they do come out, it's not going to be this huge thing about, I'm so scared, you're not going to love me anymore, or are you going to kick me out, or are you going to beat me up, or are you going to like all these different things. Those things happen all the time. And that's and like young people are smarter than you think. They know a lot more about who they are than you think that they do at a younger age. So let's start these conversations early. Let's make it safe and answer their questions, these hard-hitting questions that they're gonna have, without them having to ask. And just do it in a gentle, kind way and infuse it with love and make it understandable. Don't make it a big deal.
Word. Cool. What about you, Scott?
Karen kind of nailed that shit on the head. Exactly. Just be more open, be loving, kind of have that safe space for them to openly communicate and feel like they're being themselves, I'm so sorry about my res internet, guys. I don't know if they're catching all of this or whatnot. But yeah, just creating those safe spaces and holding these safe spaces and letting them know that they are strong individuals, whether they are Two-Spirit or not. Like just letting them be confident and empowering them.
Hey, that's so dope. You know what? I think obviously, like, I don't know if you guys watch, hopefully you guys are fans of us, but what we like to do is we like to highlight our guests to end the show. So we're going to give you guys a few minutes each. We're going to pop you up on the main screen. Just talk about whatever you want to. Give a message out to everybody watching. I just want to say, first off, man, I want to thank you guys so much for coming on and giving your time today and your guys' stories. This is very important to me. This is something that I'm actively trying to learn, and that I want to be a better ally for you guys. I want to be a friend to you guys. I want to be anything I can be so that you guys can feel exactly how you need to in this world, because for a long time, I could never imagine, like I was having this conversation with Tia the other day, and I was like, I could never imagine what it's like to grow up in a world where I didn't feel like I was wanted, or I was safe, or that thing, I wasn't normal, or, because that would be the ultimate horrible way to grow up. And if there's anything that I can do as a person moving forward to be able to make that safe space, or safe space, and be able to just, be somebody that isn't going to take homophobia, that isn't going to take any of the prejudices that you guys face, and actively stand up for that. I would just, like I said, that thank you so much for being able to come on today and educate me, because it was important for me. So I don't know, River, if you want to talk really quickly.
No, I just want to thank both of you, man. This was a really, really good conversation, and I feel like this is something a lot of people can benefit from, regardless of your background and where you come from. This is very, very important, and I'm super glad we had this conversation, and I'm glad that me and Ray are building this connection to network with you guys, so that we can help each other out in the future. And like going forward, if you guys ever need help with anything, don't be afraid to reach out to us as Foxing Around, or even as individuals, and we'll do the same. But like, yeah, boys, it means so much, and thanks for coming on this podcast this evening. If there's anything you guys want to say quickly, and then we'll give you the solo screen each.
I would just
Scott can go first.
Yeah, I really want to thank you guys for, creating spaces like this for me and Ty, and having these conversations. I know it's kind of difficult to have conversations like this within our communities, but they're very important, and they're vital, and they're what's going to kind of pave the way for a better future for our generations, future generations as well too, and create a more loving environment. So I just want to thank you guys for, sharing your knowledge and being so open-minded and creating spaces like this.
Yeah. First of all, Ishnish, Chimigrich, hi. Thank you to the Foxing Around podcast, River and Ray. You guys are doing really great work, and are really being advocates for all different types of Indigenous people. So thank you for creating and holding this space for people like Scott and I to come in and have sometimes often, or quite often, tough conversations to have. And to any youth that are out there, just remember that you are beautiful, you're important, you are the future, you are your ancestors' wildest dreams coming true. There may be intergenerational trauma in your blood, but there's so much intergenerational resilience and strength in your blood as well, and that's going to continue to keep you strong. And me personally, I will continue to speak my truth and to be a champion for young queer people who are struggling. I will always be a champion and an advocate for those people, and use my voice to uplift them and make their lives better. And I will continue to do that in honor of all of the young Indigenous people who didn't have the privilege to get to the age that I am right now. There are so many young people who have taken their lives in our communities, and my heart breaks thinking about the staggering numbers of statistics of our young people taking their lives. And I realize now that this privilege that I have to be myself fully, and to be proud of myself, and to do this work is a privilege that was denied to so many young Indigenous queer people who can do this work too. And I'm going to continue to do this work in honor of all of those people who didn't get to make it to my age because of how intolerant the world can be sometimes. But we have the opportunity to create a new world, and I think that it starts with things like this. And so having conversations like this is really important. So I'm going to continue to do that. And thanks to everyone who watched. I had a really great time, and yeah, hopefully you can check Scott and I out on Instagram and social media, be friends with us, and let's create a better community. Spread love one another, take care of one another, be kind. Ishnish.
Hey, we're gonna get Scott here up on the main board here real quick. Sorry about this. My editing skills are sometimes a little slow. Hold up one sec. There we go. All right, Scott, you're on the main stage.
Hey. Hi guys. I just want to say thank you guys. Thank you again to Foxing Around for having this conversation, for having me Kai on. I really want to thank you guys for creating spaces like this for us. For any Indigenous youth out there who are struggling with their identities and who want to learn, like reach out to resources out there. Don't hesitate to reach out to me and Kai, because we love hearing from you guys. We love helping as much as we can as well too. And it's important for us to kind of take up these spaces and educate others, not only within our own communities but about around society as well too. So as we move towards a better generation for all of us, a better understanding for Indigenous people as well too, and a better understanding for Indigenous people. I just really want to say thank you guys for for all the love and support, for everything. I just want to say keep pushing, and if don't ever hesitate to reach out. Y'all are amazing.
Dope. What's up? One of your homies wanted to say hi real quick. So.
Hi.
Oh my God, Tia. Y'all, this is Tia Wood.
Is that fucking Tia Wood?
Yeah.
Album.
Oh my God, it's so cool to finally meet you guys. Kind of virtually meet you.
I'm just fangirling here.
You guys are so awesome. I was watching this whole episode and I just wanted to say I respect what you both are doing and that you guys will always have a supporter in me. And yeah, K5, love you.
Yeah. Ray, where's the song, bro?
Oh, bro, I don't know, man. They want to hear you sing. Yo, for Scott and Kyron, hold up. You gonna do it?
Yeah.
All right, she's gonna sing.
I'm just gonna go get my rattle real quick.
All right, one sec. Hold up. There we go. We'll send you guys
Exclusive
off.
performance.
Yeah, we'll send you guys off with the song from Tia Wood. I don't think it ends better than that. So,
From a blue
Go
check mark.
follow Tia Wood on social media. Even though I'm pretty sure the entire world follows Tia. Follow her anyway.
yeah, I'm gonna post you guys' thing in the chat here so they could give you a follow on TikTok.
Yeah.
Make sure you go find these guys on TikTok. They are hilarious. All right, we're gonna have a song here real quick. I'm gonna get out the way. You don't want to see me no more.
Woo! Welcome to the Fox and Around podcast. All right. Okay, so the song I want to sing for you guys tonight is kind of a song we sing back home in Cree Territory, Saddle Lake, Alberta, and it was composed by my father, Earl Wood. And holy, I'm just all out of breath running up the stairs. But yeah, it's kind of like a celebratory song. We sing it to feel good and to celebrate. And I just wanted to sing it for you guys because I want to celebrate you guys and all the work that you're doing, because you're both such amazing people. And I have so much respect and love for you guys. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the song. Okay. What's going on? No, going on. Hey, them again, going on. Hey, no, going on. Hey, what's going on? No, going on. Hey, them again, going on. Hey, no, going on. Hey, what's going on? No, going on. Hey, them again, going on. Hey, no, going on. Hey, what's going on? Thank you for allowing me to sing for you guys. Okay, I gotta go back.
Bye.
Bye. Love you.
All right, that was dope. I don't know how it sounded. You guys, that sounded dope as hell on my end.
It was so
So
beautiful.
excited for the album. I want to hear that on repeat.
Yeah, we'll have to tune in. But once again, man, thank you guys so much, man. We got to do this again. Make sure you guys come through again real soon. We'll talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. We got more questions. So I just want to say much love again, guys.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for bringing us on.
Love you all.
All right. Peace. Bro, that was amazing. That was dope, man. Those guys are some real movers and shakers in this world, man. I'm so proud to know them and to hear their stories and just be able to be in their presence as they talk about who they are as people and to educate us, man. I was just fucking dope. I don't know how to say it besides that, bro. Like,
Yeah, bro. Like every week, man, the podcasts just get better and better, man. And I learned so much more. And like this one was, once again, man, it was amazing. And yeah, I just really want to reiterate what they said, man. We have to do better as males. We have to do better as society for creating these spaces for two-spirit individuals, and we have to do better for allyship too, man. And yeah, there were no two better people to come on and educate us about that stuff. That was a really, really good episode, bro. And yeah, is there anything else you got?
no, bro. We'll announce our guest this Wednesday. Who's going to be coming on the podcast? We got some exciting news, man. We're going to be doing some promotional stuff in the next little bit, man. You'll have to give us a week or two, but we're really excited about that to be able to, give away some stuff, show you guys some new things that we've been working on. And man, I don't know, man. I'm in such a good mood about this podcast and what just happened here and the stories that they're sharing, man. I can't thank those guys enough. Much love to Kai and Scott, man. I believe we're gonna drop their handles in the chat here after we're done, just so you guys can go follow them on TikTok. These dudes are fucking hilarious. Make sure you follow them, man. They got that great res uncle / auntie humor, man. It's amazing what they can create on TikTok. So. Yeah, bro, I think that's about it, man. You got anything else?
Nah, bro. I just want everybody to stay safe, man. Wear a mask. Quit spreading fucking COVID, bro. Like,
Yeah, wash your ass too.
Yeah. Well, it shouldn't have to take a pandemic for you to wash your ass, man. Like, do that shit it's good. All right, bro. Much love, man. Love you, brother. I will talk to you soon again.
Peace,
And
bro.
till next time, everybody. Peace out.
Peace.